Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today's topic, best practices on converting leads to revenue. This is very important. Any company that has had to deal with meeting sales goals or revenue targets, which basically is just about every company, will be interested in today's discussion. And we've got 4 industry experts from great companies in the middle of these challenges, and they're going to be here to talk to us. Let me just check in with each before we get started. First, let me check in with the president of Evenbound. We've got John Heritage. Hey, John.
Hi, Phil. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And we've got from HubSpot, the Senior Partner Development Manager, Natasha Lopez. Hey, Natasha.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And from ChiliPiper, we have Director of Customer Success, Gaines Murphy. Hello, Gaines.
Hello, Phil. Good to see you.
Thanks for being here. And someone I'm proud to work with at Mobileforce, the CEO, Jagadish Bandole. Hey, Jagadish.
Hey, Phil. Hey, everyone. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks to each of you. And it's a pleasure to be hosting. I'm Philip Levinson, the head of marketing at Mobileforce. We've got an exciting discussion. Let me first also thank all of you for joining and remind everyone that this is designed to be an interactive webinar. So as you develop questions and comments, feel free to drop those in the Q&A section of the Zoom app, and we'll try to get to those at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned for that. Please add those questions in there. Now, with that, we've got a lot of ground to cover. This is an important topic. Here's a quick agenda, and then we'll get started. First, we're going to go ahead and, after I'm done welcoming and introducing the webinar, hand things over to Natasha, who'll talk about about leads and prospecting from HubSpot's point of view. And then Gaines will be up talking about making it easy for your prospects to get in touch. And then Jagadish from Mobileforce will talk about optimizing your lead to close to revenue process. And then finally, John from Evenbound will talk about how companies can weave all these conversion efforts together in a seamless way. Then we'll hit our Q&A, and that's, again, your chance to add your questions, and we'll get to discuss those, and then we'll wrap things up. So we're going to cover a lot of ground. Let me just set the stage for our discussion before we hand things over to Natasha. So let's talk about the need for speed in lead management, because that's not just a tagline from Top Gun in the 1980s. The need for speed is really important with lead conversion and lead management for a few key reasons. It's important first on that initial conversion process. And what we've seen with studies is as a lead just sits there from just 5 to 15 minutes, the odds of converting that lead go down 4x just in that short period of time. And as you go from 15 minutes to over an hour, the lead conversion odds actually decrease even more, 6 to 10x. That's staggering. And that leads us to the second point, which is in surveys of B2B decision makers, they cited slow speed in interacting with vendors as their #1 pain point. And finally, that speed has been cited twice as often as price by sales decision makers. It really emphasizes the importance of not only moving quickly, but efficiency in lead management. And that's why we're here today. So with that, let me go ahead and hand things over to Natasha from HubSpot, who'll talk about leads and prospecting from HubSpot's point of view. Natasha.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Natasha Lopez, and I am a Senior Partner Development Manager at HubSpot. So to introduce this, I want to start off by talking about our Sales Hub. So our Sales Hub is a tool that helps connect sales reps without complexity, drives productivity with easy to adopt tools, and supports growing sales orgs. So with Sales Hub, the idea is that we're able to prospect smarter, accelerate revenue growth, and scale insightfully. So as part of that, I want to chat a little bit more about one of our newer tools called the Prospecting Workspace. All right. So with the prospecting workspace, the idea here is that sales reps in demand generation roles can use this as a tool to stay productive, organized, and focused with this single unified workspace. So the idea is that we're able to do everything that we need to do here as a sales rep, no more switching between different apps, and really get a bird's eye view of what we need to do on a day-to-day basis. So again, this is our newer tool. And as part of this tool, we've actually implemented and released a new leads object. So I'll talk about that a little bit and how this ties into the prospecting workspace. All right, so our leads object is, again, new and works hand in hand with the prospecting workspace. The lead record represents and tracks the process of rep, so typically a BDR or SDR or someone in a demand gen role. And what that process is what they go through to qualify a contact before they become an opportunity and a deal record is created. So that is the intention behind our leads object. And the leads object actually solve a pretty big problem that exists. The idea here is that oftentimes marketers and salespeople struggle with lead funnels and prospecting, leading to unreliable reporting, some misalignment between marketing and sales, and difficulty managing those leads at scale. And the leads object really solved these problems by modeling a lead journey in HubSpot, and it powers some of our additional tools that really make lead management and reporting easy for marketing and sales teams. You can go on to the next slide. All right, so to recap, the leads object provides some key benefits for Sales Hub customers who prospect within HubSpot. It powers our prospecting workspace, which is our dedicated home base for prospecting in Sales Hub. It also allows for comprehensive reporting and automation, which I've mentioned. And my favorite part about this tool is that it allows for repeat leads. So for example, contacts that come back through the lead funnel more than once, you're able to track those, you're able to track repeat buyers, and you're also able to track previously disqualified leads and get some really good reporting around that. There are a few ways that leads can be created within HubSpot automatically based on lifecycle stage. So again, we can power these leads with automation. We can also create them manually in the CRM or in the prospecting workspace. And we can also use it in conjunction with our workflows tool, which again adds that element of automation to our leads object. So let's tie this back in. How does our leads object work with the prospecting workspace? So this is an example of what the prospecting workspace looks like. So if I am a sales rep, I'm right here in the prospecting workspace. I have a sense of what I need to do for the day, what exactly I need to work on. And this reduces a couple of things. One, clickiness. So I don't have to go into multiple pages to carry out my work for the day. I also don't have to grow across multiple systems to do that. But I can actually do it right here from the prospecting workspace. So on the left-hand side, you'll see I come in, I see what my
Okay, is it
to-dos are
just
for the
me
day.
or did Natasha just freeze there? Natasha, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, that was probably me. I apologize. Keep going. Thank
No
you.
worries.
Sorry about that.
On the left-hand side, I can see as a sales rep, what are my to-dos for the day? What are the emails and calls that I have to follow up on today? I can also see my schedule for the day as well. And you'll see a couple things here. I can see my tasks, again, my specific tasks that I have to run for the day, any overdue tasks that I need to catch up on, and what my tasks are for tomorrow. I can also see sequences. So what are the tasks that I have to do as a result of those sequences? So maybe I've sent out an email sequence and now I need to follow up and call that prospect. And then on the bottom hand side, I can see who are my new leads, who are the leads that I've attempted to contact, and then who are the leads that I've connected with and what action steps do I need to take. So if we click into our leads tab in the second tab that you see up top, we actually get a little more of a deeper view into leads. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll show you what that looks like. So this is our leads page here. Again, still part of the prospecting workspace, so we didn't have to go far. We just clicked into a second tab. And here I'm getting an overview of all of my leads. So all of these leads are attributed to a particular contact in my CRM. I can see a label, whether they're a hot, warm, or cold lead. I can see what company they're attributed to, what stage they're in, what activities I've done with these leads or conducted with these leads, and I can also schedule a next activity with them. So quick way to follow up and know what exactly I'm working on with these leads. If I actually click into one of these leads, again, without having to leave this prospecting workspace, I can follow up with them. So here I can complete actions like sending an email or a call. I can enroll this contact in a sequence. Again, right from the prospecting workspace, I can see all of the information that I need to know about leads, that particular lead, without leaving to a contact record. And the great thing is that this is where automation comes in. So as soon as I send that email or make that call from this page, it'll automatically move the lead status from new to attempting. And then once I actually connect with them, it'll move to the connecting status. So there are two other lead stages that I want to address as well. So the qualified lead. So the great thing here is once I've connected with my lead, I've determined that they're qualified. I can actually mark them as a qualified lead, which will prompt me to create a deal record. Again, right from this page, automatic will update that for me. So that will then close out the lead record. And now we move on to creating a deal where we can start working them through the deal pipeline. The last stage for this deal is the disqualified deal. This is super helpful because it does allow us to submit a disqualification reason. It also allows us to create a task right from this step where we can create a reminder to follow up with folks in the future. So again, this allows us to quickly do this and get some really good reporting on previously disqualified leads. So to wrap this up, we've done everything within our workspace. Now, what does reporting look like? So with our leads object and our prospecting workspace, we get some really good out-of-the-box reports. We also can use the custom report builder to create reports that really enable us to look for the data that we want to see. So to give you some examples of what some of those out-of-the-box reports look like, we can go on to the next slide. And you'll see here that we have some out-of-the-box reports that are already created with you under our Sales Analytics tab. Lead funnel, conversion rate, lead response rate. You can also get a sense of rep productivity from these reports as well. So there are many reports to work with here. To wrap up, I've actually shared some resources with you all. So if you want some more information about the lead management tools within HubSpot, you can access these resources. But again, thank you so much for your time.
That was great. Thank you so much, Natasha. And I love the reference to Friends. I'm not sure if Rachel is still at Ralph Lauren. I don't think she is, but that was great. I like but the reporting also, I know that's a question that has come up, and we'll try to talk about that a little bit more. So thank you so much, Natasha. And we will have Natasha back for our Q&A. A reminder, you can drop questions in the Q&A section. We'll try to get to those. Let's transition over to Gaines from ChiliPiper. Gaines, you're going to talk to us about how folks can make it real easy for their prospects to get in touch. Take it away.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. All right, so I work with the customers here at ChiliPiper, and we spend a lot of time working with sales teams, sometimes marketing teams, but people who use HubSpot CRM as well as Salesforce CRM. But really, primarily, the goal is to increase the conversion of those inbound leads. So let's think about any experience you've had filling out a form where you fill out the form, it says, hey, thanks, somebody will contact you. And then some point in the future, you may get a phone call, you get a couple emails. And I don't know about you guys, but I get at least probably 3 to 5 phone calls a day from various places that I rarely answer because a lot of the time it's somebody trying to give me some free credit or something like this that I'm not really interested in. So the idea here is, well, if you look at the other side as a sales rep, if you've ever been a sales rep, you're very familiar with those people who will fill out a form, say they want to be contacted, and then you never hear from them. You email them, you call them, they never get back to you. Why didn't they get back to me? You just requested to be contacted. I'm doing my job. But the point here is that one of the things you can do, and there's a lot of different apps that do it. HubSpot does it. I'm sure people are familiar with Calendly, but ChiliPiper focuses on this particularly, is allowing people to schedule an appointment with sales right away after they fill out a form requesting to be contacted. So that's those hand raiser forms where it's super important and they're a high value lead. We did an interesting survey in 2023 across all of our customers, and we saw that roughly 65% of people, when presented the option to book a meeting, will successfully complete the meeting booking. A lot of people won't, but it's a high percentage of people will go ahead and get a calendar appointment scheduled on the calendar, so that you don't really need to be calling them at random parts of the day while they're at lunch. But it's also not scheduling with everybody. I think we all know that you're going to have leads that are probably not qualified. They found the wrong company. They maybe don't align with the tech stack that you offer and the tools that you support. So it's not just scheduling with everybody. It's also saving your reps time and optimizing who they spend their time with. So for example, disqualifying people who may not be a good fit. I'll give you an example. On our website, we ask a question: which CRM do you use? Is it HubSpot or Salesforce or other? If they say other, we don't waste our AE's times talking to those prospects because they're not a good fit and they're not going to align with this. So we go ahead and move that across. So 86% of those form submissions are qualified from what we've seen. And of that, 65% will book a meeting. So it goes to show that if you offer the ability to schedule, people will 2 out of 3 times. All right. So with that, the whole idea behind this is like, let's offer people options to schedule with you or get in touch with you in ways in which they prefer. We found that a lot of times people in engineering don't generally like to talk to salespeople, surprise, surprise. But you have these different options to offer people time to book with you or to get in touch, whether that's chat. Having those options available to your prospects on your website is going to be beneficial to you and allow you to align with how your prospects prefer to be contacted. So live calls, your sales line, potentially your sales line only for reps available. Another little interesting piece is, I know a lot of people are familiar with, links that you can share with people. We found that if you do suggested times where they can just click on it in the picture on the right, you're going to see about 2 to 3x more people booking than having to click into a link, find a time, and fill out a form. So there's various things you can do to make it easier on your buyer to get in touch with you taking on the bulk of the work without them having to do so. So next slide, please. All right. HubSpot also in their engagement is really great with tracking these various things. So it's really important to sales leaders and revenue ops, marketing ops to track your different types of meetings that are coming in with your prospects, whether it's inbound meetings, outbound meetings, and follow-up calls. I think we all know in this world of sales, you always want to get a next step booked. Well, there you want to be able to track that. Maybe you want to offer a spiff to your sales reps and say, hey, I want you guys always to book those next steps. Whoever does that, the top 3 reps will get a surprise at the end of the month or the quarter. So different tools allow you to track these. ChiliPiper is one of those, directly from the calendar. Like Natasha was saying, having to flip around between different apps can be difficult, but aligning that in one CRM and easy where the reps are, using things like Chrome extensions, can make this super easy to report on these things and see how it's impacting your pipeline. If you already do use ChiliPiper, there's a cool little app called Superseed that will give you some of these pre-built reports that is pretty cool. Just if you haven't heard of it, it's a cool little layover on HubSpot. It's a nice one. But yes, taking advantage of HubSpot's engagements and deals, associations with different objects to be able to see how things are flowing through the funnel can help you optimize things over time. Next slide, please, Phil. All right. So ChiliPiper, we do have a HubSpot native CRM integration. Primarily, the main use case is when you fill out a form to be allowed you to round robin meetings between your sales groups, but also advanced routing, such as like I was mentioning with which CRM do you use? Maybe you have a EMEA sales team, maybe you have a US sales team, maybe you split them up between the United States. And if you have target accounts, which a lot of people do, you say, hey, this person's coming inbound. They're from, what was the example we were using before? Let's just use AT&T. If there's already a sales rep who's working with AT&T who's assigned that account, you want that person to not book with just a group of sales reps. You want that person to book with the right AE. And also allow your SDRs to easily transfer meetings to your AEs. That's one thing ChiliPiper really helps with a lot. And we have 300 customers using that today, which is pretty cool. But if you want to go to the next slide, please, I have a little example to share. So here's an example. You guys have probably heard of Gong. They do some really cool stuff with ChiliPiper. You can't even tell it's ChiliPiper, but you fill out a form, it's being enriched and allows you to easily schedule somebody right from your website. If you can go to the next slide, it's an interesting little data flow diagram that shows how this works. I think Clearbit recently bought, or HubSpot was acquired. Clearbit was acquired by HubSpot, so this is a cool little funnel. But they fill out a form, we enrich it real time on the website, and ChiliPiper does different types of routing and qualification to decide, is this a high value account or a high value persona? Do we want to schedule it with an AE, or do we want to schedule it with an SDR to do further qualification? Or do they not deserve to really get scheduled at all? Maybe they're an intern or a low level analyst and you want to preserve your reps' time. So Gong was able to do this and increase their conversion by 70% by fast tracking these leads and really making best use of their reps' time. So next slide, please. Last but not least here, as you guys know, automate everything you can. That's the goal behind a lot of these tools. You know, let your reps be salespeople and be on calls selling. We don't need them logging stuff manually. You can sync a lot of this stuff in. If certain meetings come in and they are attended, do you want to go ahead and create a deal for them so that they don't have to? So tools like HubSpot and ChiliPiper can allow you to do things, automate those email reminders pre-meetings to get people to show up, track that, get better at it over time. This is going to allow your reps to spend more time selling and less time chasing people down and doing manual tasks that aren't producing revenue. I believe that's all I got. Thank you guys for
That is great. Gaines, that was fantastic. And it's already inspired a question or two. And a reminder, we will get to those during the Q&A section. So stay tuned. Gaines, thanks for walking us through that. And now let's pick up on the lead to close to revenue process. And for that, what I'm going to do is hand things over to Jagadish from Mobileforce, who will walk us through his presentation. Jagadish.
Thank you, Phil. All right, so let's pick up where Natasha and Gaines left. You know, so you've all heard about lead management, right? Making it efficient, quick, routing it to the right people, et cetera, and making sure that they get qualified. What you also want to do, the next thing, is to complement it with a well-designed quote to cash system. Because at the end of the day, you're shooting for revenue, right? So you want those leads to convert, and as many of those leads to convert as possible. And you want those to be converted as quickly as possible. So two things go into that, right? One is you want to have a system that will help you move that through the process and get them to a quote and convert that. But also, more importantly, there is a next level of qualification that happens typically as these leads get into opportunities and they get into the middle of the funnel, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, right? So if you think about it from the perspective of, where we pick up from where HubSpot and tools like ChiliPiper hand things off to a salesperson, now the AE is working through the lead, through an opportunity. One of the most important things, especially in today's world of selling and buying, is customers, they're well educated, they're well researched. They don't necessarily like to talk to salespeople until and unless they're ready. So, however, you still want to be able to qualify their needs, qualify the requirements, so that when they are ready to talk to you, you can move them through the process quickly. And so there is a gap there. And that gap is what I talk about as joint engagement. There's a need for salespeople or SDRs who take these leads and further qualify them through the process, and preferably do that in a way where they can collaborate with the customer. So that's an area where Mobileforce is contributing with what we call as sort of a pre-quote qualification, right? The idea is continue the qualification process whereby now they go beyond filling the form into filling in their needs and essentially even potentially self-configuring a solution. A lot of times people want to be able to even get to a budgetary quote. They want to be able to know what a solution roughly costs. These are questions that a lot of prospective customers have, and usually they don't necessarily take a meeting with a sales rep unless they have a lot of those answers. So it's sort of a chicken and egg problem, right? So this is an area where we can help through a customer-facing joint engagement portal where they're able to now capture, you're able to effectively capture the customer needs that can intelligently, we live in the world of AI, so intelligently turn that into a draft quote for the salesperson to um, get a jump on things, and they can start to configure things exactly based on what the customer needs are. And now you go through what's called a typical configure, price, and quote, a CPQ process. We won't delve too much into that part of it here, but I want to go beyond that. That process will help you very quickly get to a quote and then onboard the customer once the deal is closed. And that's another area where systems, well-designed systems, are now stretching what's sort of typically been a CPQ, a quote to cash process, to both pre-quote and post-quote. One of the other areas where, especially with the focus on expansion sales, so much in vogue today, a lot of 2023 was about upselling and expanding with your existing install bases. So which means you need to make sure you have the processes and tools to be able to upsell and renew those customers and cross-sell and upsell those customers to expand those accounts, which sort of comes back into your lead for the upsell, right? And qualification process for that. So this entire process is not just linear, it's actually a process that kind of loops around, and having a system kind of post-close to enable customer success and your services team to be able to continually collect those requirements and kind of feed it back into the loop is an important aspect. So that's something that we work on with HubSpot in Mobileforce. Specifically, we do it by doing it really easy for salespeople to do it. If you think about the kinds of challenges that salespeople have to deal with post sort of lead in when they get into the quoting system, is how do you kind of quote the right products and get the right kind of approvals and configure the right things, et cetera, et cetera. And these things typically involve a lot of support from sales support teams, IT teams, sometimes even external teams to sort of help them get through this. And Mobileforce focuses on eliminating all of this complexity through something that we enable, what we call as a no-code based system that helps practitioners, that is your own sales enablement teams and sales operations teams, to be able to do all of these things themselves without having to support these things through coding or complicated rules and all of those kinds of things. So that's a big focus area for us of making it easy for those leads to go straight into quote, straight into contracts, and get those things closed as quickly as possible. So with that, I just want to show one quick example of something like that in practice here. So if I look at HubSpot CRM or any CRM, I go into a deal here, and I can quickly either launch an existing, a new proposal or an existing proposal through a single sign-on. I can pop that up into a separate tab here and look at an existing proposal. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight here is that pre-quote aspect of lead qualification. So this is an example of where going beyond that form that somebody filled out initially, that they were interested in your product, we take it to the next step now to provide them, again, a set of forms that will help them self-qualify, specify their needs, be more clear about their requirements, and all of these things, the customers can do it themselves in a customer-facing portal. But as a sales rep, I'm logged in here as a sales rep. I'm able to see all of the information that the customer wants, and the system will automatically turn that into a recommended quote with all the right kind of bundles and right kind of items in here. And so that way, as a salesperson, I don't have to construct things from scratch. I'm able to start from a point where the system has picked the right kind of price books, and all I need to do is go and fine-tune the right kind of pricing tiers or the quantities that the customer might need, add the right kinds of discounting, or if it's a cost plus kind of scenario, I do the right kind of margin calculations, and then go through my approvals fairly quickly, do my digital signatures, and generate a quote and get it out very, very quickly for the customer in time. So that's a simple process where we sort of take that lead to quote to cash process and make it really efficient. And beyond that, we actually take it one step beyond that. Now, when the salesperson comes back here and the deal is closed, additional tabs open up here where the system can then hand it over to customer success team or your onboarding team to provide the information about what was exactly sold, what needs to be provisioned, and they can kind of take the baton and manage the customer lifecycle from there on. And then at the right time, they can use the same process, the same system to be able to identify upsell opportunities or cross-sell opportunities, and that goes back into the CRM and that entire top of the funnel process to be able to go through maybe a follow-on lead or a follow-on opportunity. That's a very quick whirlwind demo, but happy to go through that in more detail. Please feel free to contact us if you have specific needs around that. But I will hand it back to you, Phil.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jagadish. And it really does help fill in the gap between a lead being generated and those first quotes and proposals being provided, a real important piece of that puzzle. Thanks, Jagadish. And let's transition. We've got one more presentation, and then again, we're going to get to the Q&A section. We've got the president of Evenbound, John Heritage. John, why don't you talk about how companies can weave all their conversion efforts together in terms of lead management?
I love that. Yep, I've got some slides teed up here to talk about just this. I'm going to cover a fairly good amount of ground here in a relatively short period of time. So I'm going to move fast. If there's something we need to dive into more detail, we can definitely submit some questions. But what I'm going to try to do is get everybody aligned with defining what is a lead. We're going to talk about some lead gen strategy, approach topics, some performance measurement, optimizing your CRM. I think everybody's touched on this, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about lead response times and lead scoring, some common issues that we see fairly frequently, and then getting help with any of these things. So here we go. Dwight Schrute. This is a very basic, simple table that we like to start with for any customer as it pertains to their CRM. And why this is important is when I first got married, my wife and I worked for the same company. I was in charge of marketing and leads, and she was in charge of sales. And we would spend our dinner time conversations having arguments over her not closing the great leads that I was sending her, and her complaining that the great leads I was sending her were actually not that great. And so what remedies that, and what remedies it, for clients that we work with now, is getting everybody in the same room and sitting down and saying, all right, what are the different types of leads? What is the purchase intent that those leads may be having or experiencing at that time? And how do we describe these things? Because a marketing qualified lead may or may not be worthy of a sales outreach conversation. I think everybody is after these SQLs, and even after current customers who are ready to purchase again or purchase more. But there's a whole bunch of other types of leads that we need to understand as an organization before we can get into the next phase of whatever it is that we're doing. So this is kind of where you start. Go ahead, Bill. Another one I want to touch on here is, and this is familiar to those of you that have been around for a couple of years, especially centered around HubSpot. What you're seeing is the kind of the traditional funnel on the left that starts with marketing at the top in the broad sense and trickles down into sales and then eventually into customers. There's a compounding effect to taking this flywheel approach where you put the customers at the center of everything, and you're producing all of this great content, and you're providing a fantastic customer experience all the way through, no matter where they are in the process. That compounds, and what may happen is they'll have a conversation with their brother's cousin's uncle, and they'll say, you should buy Mobileforce software. And that attribution may not be linear. It blurs the lines of that attribution. If you really want to try to understand this, there's a B2B demand gen expert on LinkedIn named Chris Walker who talks a lot about the unfairness of today's marketing attribution. But when you go to measure things, it's important that you understand the approach that you take and the type of business that you're running is going to have an effect on that. This is a common view, out-of-the-box view inside of HubSpot that we use. It used to be called the sources report. Now I think it's just in the traffic report. But what we're seeing here is essentially the waterfall of how organic traffic and from maybe inbound marketing campaigns flows into sessions, and then a new contact, and then a new customer, and what some of those bounce rates and the measurable portions of this, across many different channels. So when we're looking to measure how our marketing is performing across channels like direct traffic, organic social, if we're running paid search, those things, we have to be able to see this as a group, and we have to be able to align on it. I'm obviously a big proponent of HubSpot, so if I can click into, this is a slide, but in my report, I can click into those numbers and see the actual leads in there. That's a very valuable tool. That is a differentiator from something like Google Analytics, where you can't see the context of what is a lead or a customer, like you can inside of HubSpot. So when we get into like laying the groundwork and really optimizing that CRM for lead management, it's important to understand that a CRM is simply your systems and processes inside of that CRM. So and the way that we improve those things, or the way that we optimize those things, is really, and this is a phrase that I'm hearing more and more recently, which is great, and it's certainly an objective of ours for all of our clients, but the idea of adoption. It's getting the team to see the value of that CRM data. So from the marketing side, from the sales side, from the customer service side, everybody sees the value of that data in one place. Then they're going to, and once they see the value of the data, then they're going to adopt to it, right? Natasha talked on this earlier, but documenting that buyer journey and getting those deal stages aligned with that buyer journey, certainly a huge opportunity to optimize your CRM for managing leads in the right way. Providing training and resources and incentives. I think we've historically seen businesses where we stand up a CRM implementation for them, and then there's a lot of use at the very beginning, and then 60, 90 days later starts to fall off, and we have to come back in and get everybody using it again. That's a fairly common thing across most organizations, and so I think having training and resources and incentivizing the adoption of the tool is a key for optimizing. Gaines talked about this earlier. Automate everything when and where possible, right? With a couple of exceptions, but I think use those automation tools to make the reps' lives easier. And then meet them where they are. If they want a lead notification on Slack or via text, set that up for them. Make sure that they feel like they're winning as well. Go ahead, Phil. We talked about this earlier too. Lead response times matter a lot. So 78% of customers purchase from the first responder, the first person that responds to a lead. Conversion rates are 8 times higher in the first 5 minutes of the response. Only 37% of companies achieve a lead response time of 1 hour or less. And 44% of leads are generated outside of business hours. So use automation and notifications and training and improve response performance is a huge win for most companies. Thanks, Phil. Lead scoring. There's a lot of information on lead scoring out there available, and I know there's all kinds of amazing tools around intent data and stuff. This does not need to be a super complicated process. So it can be a very simple formula to be effective. Is it a target account? Is the email URL a Gmail, a company branded URL, or is it a Gmail address? Did they give you a phone number even though the phone number is unrequired? Did they visit a number of website pages before they converted on a form? Did they visit the pricing page before they converted on a form? Those are just 5 very simple, easy criteria. Use those. We use those for clients as well. Lead scoring can be a very simple, easy process. And provide great value when it comes to these kind of end-to-end solutions, is getting a good score and understanding the context of the lead that you are getting. Go ahead, Phil. Common issues. Again, my Dwight Schrute reference there. So I'm a big Office fan, obviously. Some of the common stuff that we see are unqualified leads get handed off to sales. Sales doesn't follow up with the leads that do get handed to them. Sales follows up with the leads, but it's too late. The data doesn't go into the CRM when they do follow up, and some easy solutions on that. So sales to marketing feedback loop. I think it's important to periodically sit sales and marketing leaders in the same room and talk about these things and give them real use cases out of the CRM, because it gets everybody on the same page. Give them a lead response time report. You can set that up inside of Salesforce, inside of Sales Pro, so that HubSpot Sales Pro, so that you can see the report of how long it's taking you on average to respond to a lead. Always a big fan of incentivizing and gamifying this idea of adoption and data input with Starbucks cards and pizza parties, one-on-one consulting, things like that. So those are some simple ways to get kind of those common problems identified and addressed. So from our perspective, I think there's a certain amount of trepidation around working with an outside partner, an outside technical partner to improve some of these things inside of your CRM. It does not need to be as intimidating as what it might seem like. I think working with a technical partner to run an audit and workshop with your team to provide as much valuable and insight as possible so that you can improve and optimize all of your end-to-end processes is such a huge win for organizations. So that might include like your CRM data audit, where we look through your reporting, we look through your data, we look through some of the things that we talked about. We set up some interviews and we speak with your marketing team, we speak with your sales team, and then we just kind of go through some process alignment and put you on an improvement plan. That we have seen huge wins and huge gains across organizations where we get to step in and do that work. And it brings great satisfaction. We do these many times throughout the year. So don't be afraid to get an outside perspective and get some help from the outside on these things. One more, and that's it. So feel free to email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Shared some good information there today with everybody. So excited to see some Q&A here.
That is great, John. Thank you. And again, love the office reference, but also loved how you picked up on several of the earlier points and just explain the importance of weaving this into companies' RevOps processes, just how critical that is. So, yes, let me invite my folks, our panelists back in. And so there we go. And excellent. Jagadish, I know you're coming back on. And let me transition over to Q&A. So first, let me just say each of those presentations was great. I really loved how they all really fit nicely together. We did get some questions. Here's one. Gaines, I know you already answered one. And let me pick up on that theme, which is, when you are approached by customers, what exactly is the friction or are the pain points that you're hearing the most frequently related to lead conversion and lead management? What are you hearing the most?
Well, it's an interesting time in the market, of course. I think we've kind of come off of this whole layoff place where people are trying to do more with less. Most companies, a lot of companies have had layoffs, and the market's not hiring at the level it once was 4 or 5 years ago. So people are trying to think about, how do I automate more stuff? How do I have my reps spend less time with these manual actions? How can I again do more with less? And so trying to build out things like, okay, I want to go ahead and create a deal or an opportunity right when a meeting is booked, or I want to better automate my reminder sequences, and I want to figure out what my no-show rates are so I can increase those. So really it's trying to like do more without having as big a group and force that you used to have. And so the tools and the automation help you do that a lot. And I think tools like what John mentioned with optimizing your funnel and understanding where those different points come in to know where to spend your marketing dollars, for example, is really big in the marketplace today. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do, is optimize their processes and make it more efficient.
Absolutely. And John, I don't know if you want to chime in, but is there any particular theme or concern related to lead management that you're hearing the most from your clients? And then I'll go to you, Jagadish, with a second question. John, anything you want to share from your perspective?
I mean, I think the reality of today is certainly in post-COVID, if we kind of span it out a little more, is that people are spending more and more, but budgets are growing bigger and bigger and bigger for these types of marketing activities, marketing strategies, marketing processes that, they stand up to generate leads and to generate opportunities. And so, to Gaines's point, they want to optimize those. They want to make sure that those things are performing the way that they want them to perform. And so I think that's fairly consistent across whether you're standing up a relatively new strategy and operation, which we do fairly frequently, or whether there's one that is existing that you need to audit and determine what is performing and what is not. I think those are fairly common situations that we're seeing right now.
That makes a lot of sense. No, that's great. And that actually brings me to the next question. Jagadish, I'll start with you, which is, as folks want to streamline their lead to quote to close to revenue processes, a lot of companies are very concerned about integration, not just with the applications they use and the software and the systems, but also in their workflows and processes. What do you and Mobileforce do to help ensure that seamless integration and minimize the pain associated with that?
Yeah, great question. I think philosophically, we sort of take a different approach towards integration, and I think it has helped us. We don't look at integration from a system-centric point of view, in the sense that we don't go and say, okay, which are all the systems you've got and what do we need to work together, and let's go integrate them. We look at it from a user-centric perspective, because at the end of the day, right, you take the flywheel approach, customer is at the center, and the people who support the customer are your people on the front lines, so your salespeople and service people. So if your salespeople are using your systems, what are the pieces of data they need in order to be able to effectively serve the customer, right? And that means accurately produce a quote, configure the right kind of products, right? And make sure that they've got the right kind of terms and conditions in there, right? And if it's a renewal or an upsell, or a customer success person is pulling it up, what do they currently have in the purchased, and what are the things that they want to upgrade? This information doesn't sit in one place, right? And so that's where the integration comes in. Part of it is in the CRM, the system of record, right? The customer information and etc. There may be things such as back office systems, such as your ERP, or in cases where you're dealing with inventory, you might need to check the product inventory. There may be other systems, such as your contract lifecycle management systems, which you might have to consult to see what contracts they already are under and what products they already bought, if it's an upsell or a renewal kind of a scenario. So when I look at integration, I always advise that you look at it from the perspective of the seller and the customer, and what pieces of data that you need, and make sure you put in a system and a process that's data driven, which means it needs to be able to pull that piece of data from whatever system it is at runtime, at real time, right? And be able to drive your workflow or your quoting logic or your rest of the process based on that, right? And you need to have a system that's capable of doing it. And that's why it's very important. You can't do integration upfront once and just forget about it. It's something that you will constantly have to change and update. So you need a system in place that will allow you to do that, right? That will enable you to constantly react and incorporate new pieces of data or different kinds of data into your quoting and revenue processing logic. And so that's the way, that's the approach I recommend. So which means with that in mind, you want to make sure that you look at those pieces of data and then ask the question, where is that piece of data coming from, which system, and what do I need to integrate? And just focus on integrating that part efficiently, right? Instead of the entire system, just focus on reading and writing the right kind of pieces of data and incorporating it in your logic. So that's, it's a different approach to how generally things have been done in the last 20 years, where system integration has a particular approach. Sort of a waterfall approach. I think we need to take a different approach in the dynamic world we live in, and that's kind of what we prescribe.
Yes, absolutely. A different approach, but one that has seemed to work and seems to address some of those concerns in ways that make a lot of sense. Thank you, Jagadish. And you talked about data. That's a good segue, because Natasha, another question that comes up is related to data and reporting. which is in order for marketing and sales teams to optimize, they really do need not just accurate data and reporting, but timely. What do you and HubSpot do in terms of helping companies meet their goals there? And then I'll ask John to chime in on that as well.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of going off what Jagadish was saying, but you want to make sure you're evaluating tech stack, right? And like was mentioned, you want to get a sense of what exactly do you need to bring in and integrate in order to have the data that your sales teams need or your marketing teams need. So that is one important piece because again, HubSpot, the idea behind HubSpot is that's your one source of truth. So in order to report on the data, we need to have the data in there, right? So that's the first piece is taking a look at that. And then John mentioned some things around the process, right? And getting an understanding of what is a lead, right? Starting off with those. So I think another important piece is, again, process, right? We need the data in there and we need to get everyone on the same page in terms of process, right? So what does what does a lead mean? What types of data are we entering into HubSpot, right? How are we entering that data? How are we recording that data? So those are some different things that we want to take a look at to have the data in there. From there, once we have all those foundational pieces, it's really easy to get started on reporting. So we have a ton of out-of-the-box reports, right? That essentially takes all the data that you have within HubSpot and creates reports from you. So you just go to a report library and there they are, right? And then we also have the custom reporting piece, right? Where you can pull in from your different sources, you can pull in from different custom properties. So again, it really does come down to, do we have the data that we need in order to get that reporting? And if not, how do we get the data in there? And then how do we get everyone on our team on the same page in terms of inputting data and what the process is? And again, getting some clarification on what do things like a lead mean? What does it mean to be an SQL versus an MQL? So I would say those are the two most important portions there.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for elaborating on that. I'm going to ask John to chime in, but before I do, we've got about 4 minutes left. We're going to try to cover one more question. If you want to follow up with any of us, you can do so through the links here. You can reach any of the companies or any of the companies and people that are here through the emails or websites that are right there. So please feel free to do that. John, do you want to just chime in real quick? We've got about a minute for you on this topic of reporting and making sure that data is being transmitted in not only accurately, but quickly. And then I'll go to Jagadish and Gaines to finish things up.
Sure. To kind of reiterate what Natasha had said, the tools inside of HubSpot for reporting are immense. It is a proverbial worm can. So it's great on a number of different fronts. But first of all, the accessibility of standing up some out-of-the-box reporting is very powerful. So you can certainly DIY it if you have, if you've got those tools, and it changes all the time. We frequently will run into clients who have complex reporting needs that they want to have met. And I'm always astounded by what my team can build out in terms of a custom report. So that custom reporting capability inside of HubSpot, also amazing. So I think having to the earlier point of having an organization that values data and understands what the purpose of that data is and how to get it into and out of HubSpot by way of reporting is kind of a key to the whole thing. And so that's what the only elements that I would add there for the time that we have on reporting. So
that's great. Absolutely. And of course, anyone listening can follow up with any of the folks and their companies here. Last question, and this will be to Jagadish first and then Gaines, is for folks that want to get started, they know they need to improve and optimize their lead to quote to close processes, but they're concerned about the friction or the barriers involved with implementation. Jagadish, for those folks, what do you say to them to get them over those hurdles and help allay their concerns? How do you and Mobileforce address that? And then I'll go to you, Gaines.
Yeah, 3 things I would want to highlight there. One is, right up front, identify all the sales motions that you have. that you want to support through this process, right? Try to document it, because it's very important to configure those things properly in a CRM system all the way, and then your entire lead to quote to cash workflow, right? And what do I mean by that? Whether, who are your target segments, new customer acquisition versus expansions versus, renewals and upsells. Maybe you have different kinds of product lines that you sell in a very different way. Maybe you have different business units that's focused on different target markets. Whatever they are, just identify the different sales motions, because you want to make sure that your sellers and your systems are attuned and optimized for each of those sales motions. Because if it's familiar for them, if it's easy for them, everything else becomes easy. Data flows through quickly, processes go through quickly, you're able to speed things through from lead to quote to cash, right? That's number one. The second point is, once you've got that, try to document the day in the life of a salesperson, because at the end of the day, they're the people who is closest to the customer, right? Prospective customer or customers. So make sure you document that as to what they go through, what they need, what are the steps they need to go through, going all the way from a lead, handoff from the marketing to sales, and then kind of going through that process, documenting that. You won't believe it. There's so many things that you uncover that you kind of take for granted, and you think that's easy, but salespeople are complaining all the time that this is just too difficult, and they're resorting to things that are, around the system. They're going around to try to get their job done, right? And that's exactly what happens, right? And the third is, once you've kind of documented it, and whatever the best practice you want them to follow, use the systems and the automations to put those rules in place, those guardrails in place. Because then what will happen is you will automatically guide them through the process in the right way. And what you get out of it is going to be compliant, is going to be accurate, and it's going to be a lot less nightmarish for you to go and fix later on, right? Absolutely. So, that, I think those are the sort of the three areas that I always recommend you do up front, and then kind of jump into the implementation, because then things actually go faster.
Very well said and well articulated, Jagadish. Thank you. And Gaines, we've got 30 seconds for you to chime in, and then we're going to wrap things up. And again, anyone listening can go ahead and reach any of the companies here through the links that are on this page. Gaines, 30 seconds to wrap us up.
You said it better than I could. So we utilize a process called decision memos at ChiliPiper, where you find some need, you start with the problem statement, you have proof of a problem, and then you list out methods and ways in which you can solve that problem and circle it around with stakeholders and look to make a decision. So the documentation piece and putting it pen to paper and outlining what you're looking to achieve and why, it's a great way to do it. So
makes
ditto on what Jagadish said.
Absolutely. Good way to punctuate that. Thank you, Gaines. And also, thanks to each of our speakers, Gaines, John, Natasha, and Jagadish. Thanks to each of you. And thanks to all of you that registered and joined us. We look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a great day. Happy selling.